Huntech Pro is proudly brought to you by Wildebeest, Magnum Archery, Orphan Weapons, Oberholzer Taxidermy, No Scent, Nat Shoot, and Gunrats.
Hi guys, and welcome to another special episode of Huntech. We felt it's time to share a little bit of technical details with you. Mark, this is Mark Pledger from Gunrats that we always do the filming with. So Mark, what are we here to do today?
So, I think there's people are now starting to shoot at a little bit longer distances, and we need to try and make sure that the guys understand that they know their rifles. So if they're going to be taking a shot at 100 meters, I think most hunters and shooters today are very competent at that. But if they want to try and stretch it and do a good ethical shot at 200 meters or maybe even 300 meters, we want to make sure that they understand their equipment and, more importantly, their bullets, to make sure that they can take that shot and be 100% confident in making sure that they shoot that animal in an ethical way and bring down that animal without any questions.
Yeah.
So today we're out at the range here, and we're going to try and interpret this, and we're not going to go into too much detail. We don't want it to be too technical. We wanted to give you just the basics to make sure that you understand. When you go to the shop there and you go and look at your bullets or your completed cartridges, you'll normally see on your packaging you'll have a BC. And the BC stands for ballistic coefficient, and you'll have a number behind it. So you'll normally have a G1 BC with a specific number. We're going to show you what that actually means. But what's very important is that a BC changes in every single firearm. So even that you and your friend shoot the identical brand, identical caliber, identical bullet, it doesn't mean that your gun is going to perform exactly the same as mine.
Yeah.
They'll be very, very similar. But now we need to see exactly where your gun, how your gun behaves and what your BC is directly with your gun.
Okay.
So we're going to do a nice simple test today. We're going to make sure that we zero the gun at 100 meter. And then we're going to go and take out a target and shoot it at 300 meters. Calculate your BC back in one of your apps. There are more sophisticated ways to calculate it, but we're going to use Applied Ballistic, which I think is the best app at the moment. And the reason being is Applied Ballistic is used in almost every shooting platform. So your Kestrels, your little ballistic calculators that you get from the various bullet manufacturers, most of them use Applied Ballistics.
Okay.
So we're going to plug that in, make sure that we've got the gun set up as well as the bullets with the actual test that we've done ourselves. And then we're going to try and stretch it out. We're going to try and take a shot from 300 meters out to 500 meters and hit the gong first time. The nice thing is that it's nice and windy like we always shoot. So besides for calculating the BC, we're going to have to talk about wind and make sure that we hold off a bit.
Yeah, I think so. It's a perfect day for us to actually, implement all these techniques. So when we're out in the hunting field, you won't be stressed out anymore.
And you can take that shot and know that you are 100% sure that you're going to be taking down that animal without any issues.
Mark, thanks for taking the time and coming out with us here today. Let's see what fun we're going to have here.
I look forward to it. So Johan, before we get started, there's a few things that we need to start doing. So we need to start inputting all the necessary information about your gun. So we've opened up the Applied Ballistics app. So you click on a new gun.
Yeah.
You first give the gun a name.
Yeah.
So this is going to be your 308.
Yeah.
And it's your gun, so it's a brand spanking new gun that you're testing.
Yeah.
Your twist rate on your barrel is a 1 in 11, is it?
Yeah, 1 in 11, yeah.
And it's a right-hand twist. Most of the guns today are a right-hand twist.
Okay.
Now we have to do the height of the sight above the bore.
Okay.
So what it means is you have to get the height between the middle of your barrel
Yes.
and the middle of your scope.
Okay.
And that's very important because it needs to start calculating exactly how far it has to at distances.
Okay.
So if you don't have that correct, you'll always be off.
Okay.
So there's two ways to do it. There's the quick and easy way. So the quick and easy way is take a vernier or take a tape measure,
Yeah.
turn it on. So it's getting to that age where I need to wear glasses. And you hold it up roughly half of your height on your scope and the middle of your bore. So that says 50.41 mils. Okay, there's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And the better way to do it is firstly remove your bolt. And what you do is you go and you measure your bolt.
Yeah.
Your bolt is 21.84. 21.84. So the middle of the bolt is half of 21.84. So 21.84 divided by 2 is
10.9.
10.92. Okay. Then you take the bowl of your scope, and that is 43.58. 43.58 divided by 2, 21.79. Okay, and then what you do, put your bolt back in, and now you need to measure the distance between the bolt and the bell housing on your scope. So that's 18.07. Then just simply add them up. 10.92 plus 21.79 plus 18.07 gives us 50.78. So our distance difference by just taking a rough guesstimate and doing the actual calculation, we're only 0.3 of a mil off. So 0.3 of a mil, there's not going to be a massive difference going forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Huntech Pro is proudly sponsored by Ultimo Group, Trigger Cam, Helber Rifles, Bullets and Innovations, Glow Tech Energy, Elroy Water, Biltong Supply Company, Madeley Skeepers Optometrist, Grizzly Gear, Bebs, SSG Cases, Seek Thermal, and Night Sight. Huntech Pro's proud media partner is Game and Hunt Magazine.
I'll take this.
At Orpin Weapons, we have a dedicated team of professionals that are extremely passionate about firearms. We specialize in custom rifle building, accurizing, customization, repair and general sales of firearms and their related accessories. Each firearm receives our signature attention to detail, met with unique insight gathered through more than 50 years' experience as gunsmiths. We look forward to assist you in your firearm needs.
So we need to put that in. Okay, we can adjust everything now in applied ballistics. If you want to do it in imperial or metric, you can happily put it in. You can also do certain things in inches, others in feet per second, and in meters, whatever you possibly want. So they're requested in inches, so let's leave it in inches. So 50.78 divided by 2.54, sorry, 25.4. 50.78 divided by 25.4 gives you 1.99
inches.
1.99 inches. Okay, there's no offset, so it's directly above your bore. Your reticle you're using a Bushnell.
Yeah, Forge.
So they might not have a Bushnell there.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is try and match it up to the closest scope that you have. So Bushnell, they actually do have some Bushnells there.
Yeah.
They've got the G2H, the G2, the G31.
Okay.
What type of scope is it? You've got a 4.5
To 27.
to 27 in MOA,
Yeah.
correct? So what we do is let's just stock standard MOA.
Okay.
Your true magnification, you said your high magnification is
27.
27. Your low magnification
4.5.
4.5, and we add your gun.
Okay.
Now we need to add your bullet.
Your
You're
cartridge.
shooting the Sako Supper Hammerhead.
180 grains.
So what you do is you click on your gun,
Yeah.
and then you click on add the plus button.
Yeah.
You can try and choose the bullet from the library. Let's see if we're lucky enough when we have it. So it's a 308 caliber.
Yeah.
You're shooting
Sako.
a Sako bullet.
There's one bullet.
So unfortunately it's not the bullet that you're after. So that's no problem at all. What we do now is we add the bullet, and we just say we manually add the bullet.
Okay.
So the bullet diameter
It's 0.308.
is 0.308, correct. Your grain of your bullet is 180 grain.
Yeah.
So the bullet length is very important. This is the actual length of the bullet itself. So if you're using a completed cartridge and you don't know the bullet length and it's not in the bullet library, then what you need to do is you need to pull one of those bullets and you can actually measure it.
Okay.
Otherwise, try and match it up as close as you can to one of the other bullets, but it's always better to be the exact.
Okay.
The muzzle velocity, we are going to check. So if you do have any crony or lab radar or something like that, it's always good to make sure that you test it in your actual firearm. But if you don't have something like that, just by doing the test that we're going to do now, the system will actually calculate your true BC or your true muzzle velocity. Okay, so we're going to use the stock standard that they've got here. So we're looking at 2495. 2495 muzzle. Now, a lot of the powders that you're using, that's why it's always good to use a really good powder like a Vitivori, where you don't have that much variance in temperature. So they're very temperature stable.
Okay.
Some powders that you can use, I've seen up to 40-foot variance in powder. So from your normal start shooting in the morning around about 10 degrees, and then in the afternoon you're at 30 or 35. Actual difference in your muzzle velocity can be significant.
Yes, yeah.
So if you do notice that your powder is very sensitive to temperature, then put in the temperature sensitivity there.
Okay.
At the moment, we're going to leave it out 100%.
Okay.
Then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the atmospheric pressure. We're going to say it's the standard atmospheric pressure because it corrects everything for sea level.
Okay.
And what we're going to do with this is we're going to get your system to actually read one of the close weather stations to actually get your density altitude, which is unbelievably important. When we shoot, we always shoot on density altitude. So density altitude is the altitude that you are above sea level, corrected for temperature. Obviously, we're up here in the high veld, we're 5,500 foot above sea level. But in a hot summer's day, we could have, it could be the equivalent of maybe 7,000 or 8,000 foot above sea level because the air is so thin. So understand that your bullet's going to go through thinner air quicker and easier than it will be down at coastal, for example. So when we shoot, we always shoot on density altitude. You can either manually go and input, or you can actually set up applied ballistics to actually read one of the weather stations. So we're going to set it up to actually read one of the weather stations.
And then the next one I see there you have is the G1 or the G7. What's the difference between the two?
Okay, so the G1 is what they call a rudimentary bullet, like a real basic projectile.
Okay.
So a really rough projectile, that will be the bullet, the equivalent against that bullet.
Okay.
The G7 is the actual true test behind the bullet. So when the bullet manufacturers manufacture it, they'll do a special test to make sure that they get the true ballistic coefficient of that bullet.
Okay.
But we have to understand that ballistic coefficient, and I see many people in the shops buying on ballistic coefficient, but the ballistic coefficient that you read on the box is not the true ballistic coefficient.
Okay.
So for example, if I had to take one of these bullet heads and I throw it underhand,
Yeah.
I'm going to get a specific distance out of that bullet, okay, and it's going to have a specific arc.
Yeah.
Or if I take that bullet and I throw it as hard as I can, it will be exactly the same. So for example, if we had to shoot this bullet now 180 grain out of a 308 rifle at 2,500 foot per second, the ballistic coefficient will be X.
Okay.
If I shoot the exact same bullet out of a souped up 300 PRC and we're shooting it at over 3,000 foot per second, understand the ballistic coefficient is going to be significantly higher.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important not to just read the ballistic coefficient on the box, because now there's a lot of companies that use it as a marketing ploy, and it's not the true ballistic coefficient of that bullet.
Yeah.
So we can happily use G1 or G7. So if you have G1 on the box, use your G1.
Yeah.
If they give you a G7 on the box, happily use the G7 because it's more accurate.
Yeah.
But we're still going to do the test to make sure it's spot on.
Okay.
Okay. So at the moment, we're just going to use the G1.
Yeah.
And the G1 coefficient is 0.342. Okay, and the range that we're doing is going to be 110 yards. We will adjust some of this now to 100 meters. And all you do is you hit plus.
Okay.
So now we have the basic stuff here. Now we need to go and physically shoot it to see exactly what we've plugged in here is exactly the same as what we shoot.
So we have to be sure to be exactly on target at 100 meters or 110 yards.
So the first thing we're going to do, shoot that you actually hit your bullseye at 100 meters. From there, then we're going to take it forward. As I said, if you've got a lab radar or a crony or anything like that, definitely use it to make sure that you check your speeds according to your program.
Yeah,
okay?
so it was saying
2495.
95, and let's say we're getting 240, we have to make that calculation.
You need to make the calculation.
Okay.
But if you don't pick it up now, if you don't have a crony or lab radar, then when you shoot it at 300 meters, which is our second test, and you'll see there's going to be more drop, your clever system will automatically make that calculation and correction for you. Okay.
Okay.
So we're almost there. So here's a little trick, Johan. So often when I go to the range there and I see the person sighting in their rifle, they're taking 5 or 6 shots to sight in their rifle and burning their barrels and everything else, and wasting cartridges. Yeah. So it's simple. So taking that shot there into account. So there is your target. So you were aiming for that center target there, and you shot slightly bottom right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't know exactly how far, unless we go there and we go and measure, then you know exactly to come 2 MIA left and 1 MIA up.
Okay.
What you do is very simple. You go and you put your crosshairs back on the center of your target where you were aiming.
Yeah.
And then you adjust your crosshair that you go down in line with where you actually physically shot.
Yeah.
So now your crosshair is down here.
Yeah.
Then you adjust your crosshair to the right to where it goes over, to where you physically shot. So you'll have your crosshair moving from there to where you actually physically shot.
Okay.
And that will bring your you'll bring your crosshair, your actual next shot should be pretty much center.
Oh, okay,
or very, very close to center.
Okay, let's try that. Okay, that's there, 0. Okay.
Okay, let's see.
Mark, I think I'm on target.
You're on target. Okay, so that's the first things first. Zero your rifle at 100 meters, make sure that you're 100% spot on.
Okay.
Now we have to try and repeat the process out at 300 meters.
Okay.
So let's go and set it up.
To make the big shots, you've got to be ready in tough spots. The new Trigger Stick Gen 3 makes it faster than ever to shoot steadier than ever. With one-hand trigger adjustments, a new quick detach yoke for fast switches from optics to gun, and new locking leg angles for full adjustments in any terrain. Be more than rock steady, be shock steady. The new Trigger Stick Gen 3, only from Primos.
A deer's nose is 1,000 times more powerful than the human nose. That means he will smell you way before you ever see him. Nose Scent is a 3-phase scent elimination system that destroys 100% of human odor. Our revolutionary enzyme formula works by fully encapsulating and by attacking and eliminating human odor particles. Our Nose Scent laundry pods, hair and body wash, and field spray will take 100% of the stink out of you. Nose Scent. Hunt undetected.
Valerius, welkom aan zijn natuur.
Okay, so Johan, we're out here at 300. Really, we choose our shooting days perfectly. Strong winds. We have to tape everything down just to try and keep it from not blowing away. So what you're going to do is we're not going to adjust anything on your scope now. So we're going to leave your settings at 100 meters.
Yeah.
Now we want to try and actually calculate the true drop.
Okay.
So you're going to aim for the little T piece here.
Yeah.
And we're going to measure exactly where you get a grouping. So what we'll do is, because it's a little bit terrible today, we're not going to worry about 1 or 2 bad shots. So you shoot a grouping of 3 to 5 good shots that you're comfortable with.
Okay.
Then we're going to come out and we're going to take that average distance from this little T piece here down and we'll measure it.
Okay.
And we're going to compare that to the actual, the program to make sure that we doing it correctly.
Okay.
And then we'll use that to work out our BC.
Yeah, to see if the app is true or not, so then we know what adjustments.
Exactly. So the only thing is, for your 300, you have to have a longer piece of paper, because you are going to aim there, but you're going to end up somewhere lower. Okay. So let's try and repeat what you've done at 100, now at 300.
Cool.
Done. So Johan, it's actually a very nice, interesting thing to actually see. And the reason being is, when I speak to people on the range and they say, listen, you know, how much lower does your gun shoot at 300? And the guys normally show me fingers about so short or about so short or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a true test. Huh?
Yeah.
So you're aiming right up top here.
that's
Those
yeah.
keep on blowing away.
Yeah.
But there's your grouping. Okay. So if we go and look at that, it's probably around an average of 63 centimeters. Okay. So 63 centimeters, we have to calculate that back in MOA. So remember, 1 MOA is 1 inch at 100 yards. We calculate it on 100 meters. Let's leave it on 100 meters. So 1 inch at 100 meters. So 1 MOA at 200 meters is actually 2 inches.
Yeah.
And 1 MOA at 300 is actually 3 inches because you multiply it by the distance.
Yes.
Okay, so if the people say, listen, you know, 1 MOA drop at 300, it's your 1 MOA times by the distance that you're actually shooting at. Okay, so if we go and look at that, we say 63 divided by 2.54 centimeters in an inch, it comes to 24.8 inches, but you divide it by the distance, which is 3. So it means that we're actually looking at 8.5. Okay. If we go and look at your app, and we go and put in your density altitude, your app automatically picks it up.
Yeah.
And we go to your trajectory. We scroll down to 300.
5.
Says 6 MOA.
6 MOA.
But we're actually at 8.5 MOA.
Yeah.
So it means that's one of two things. Either the speed is a little bit slower than we expected, or the ballistic coefficient could be a little bit lower than what it says on the box in your rifle.
Yeah.
So now we need to start calibrating that.
Okay.
So what we do is we go back to the calibration. Okay. So you go to the top little buttons there, and you click on those 3 little dots, and you see a ballistic calibration.
Yeah.
This normally tells you what sort of distance it wants you to do. So for example, range 1 should be 525 meters to 600 meters. Your range 2 should be at least 958 meters and more, and your range 3 must be around about 300 meters. So what we do is we click on range 3, and we say 300 meters, and we go and put the MOA was actually a true 8 was actually 8.25. So we click in 8.25.
Okay.
So normally on these things, they like to have a minimum of 2 distances just to make 100% sure. So you try and shoot in those 3 calibrations, go and test it in those, at least 2 of those segments.
Ranges,
And then it will use that to automatically update your system.
Okay.
So based on the fact that, listen here, we had 300 meters, we had 8.25 drop at 300 meters. You run it and it will automatically calibrate your speed, your muzzle velocity.
Okay.
So even though it might not be exactly the same, what you see from your tests, that's the speed, give or take, at that distances. Okay. So now that we've got the correction right, 8.25, let's actually go and test it and see if we actually are right. Now that we've got our gum set up, give or take, on the 300, the only other thing that we need to try and take into account is the wind.
Yeah.
So we actually shooting in a bit of a valley here. So there's a little kopje at the top there. So the wind at 300 meters is not going to be as strong as the wind that we're feeling here.
Yeah.
So here it's a constant 10 mile an hour. But closer to the gong, I'd say it's maybe a 5 mile an hour wind. Just seeing that we've gone up there. So when you go back into your system here, you can go for your wind speed. You can adjust it. Let's say 5 mile an hour. Let's see if we're right. Okay. And when you go to the wind angle, you go and you say, okay, listen, where are you going to be shooting? So you look at your angle that you're going to be shooting, and you lock your angle. Okay? And then where do we feel the wind from? We feel the wind from about there. So all you do is you click on the wind that you're actually feeling, huh? And you can adjust this. Yeah. So you push it up and we say, listen, we think it's around about 5 mile an hour there. Okay. So you see it's changed at 5 mile an hour. So you drag it out for faster and drag it back for slower. Cool. And then what we do is we lock it. go back to the trajectory, and we say, okay, 300 meters. It says, listen, we need to come down a bit. So there's a barometric pressure change that has changed slightly. So from when we did the calibration to now. So let's listen to this, because we've done the calibration. So let's dial up 7.25 MOA.
Yeah.
And we're going to hold wind. You see there, left 1.25.
Okay.
Let's hold 1.25. So no pressure. We've done all of this hard work. First shot on the gong.
Let's see it in practice now.
Okay. So 7.25, 1.25 left.
Okay, cool.
Okay, let's give it a bash. So come half a MOA left. You're on that right edge again. Okay, but that's just wind. So we're not worried about wind, whether you're left or right, because that if that was an animal, you're still 100% spot on. But what's important to know is that height-wise, you're on the waterline. You've had two shots there almost on top of each other.
Yeah.
So the wind is messing us around a bit. It's definitely a lot stronger here than it is down there.
Yeah.
But it also, you see it's gusting constantly. So that's the most important. So from your test, calibrated your information.
Yeah.
You've dialed in that to 300 meters now. And you know that it's 100% spot on. When we did the original calibration, it said 8.25 MOA.
Yeah.
After we went and spray painted the gong and the weather has changed slightly, you can feel it's a little bit colder now. The temperature is a little bit hotter now, that you actually feel that you've come down to 7.25.
Yeah.
So in another hour's time, you might actually have to dial more or less depending on the changing of the temperature.
But it's great that I can see that they're grouping there on the adjustments we made here at 300, you know.
Absolutely spot on. But if you just use the app and you didn't actually go and calibrate it to your rifle, you would have gone out into the bush there and you would have dialed in 6.25 and you would have been 3 inches too low.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're shooting a small animal like an impala or something like that, it'd actually be a mistake. It'll actually spoil your hunt.
Just Mark, no, thanks a lot for this, man. I mean, if you didn't tell me about putting in those extra settings in the app as well, I mean, with the weather and with the temperature, I wouldn't be able to shoot that gong at 300 already.
Exactly, yeah. Nice and easy. Well done, man. So we have to get to understand that a density altitude is an ever-changing thing. So as it warms up or as it cools down, your density altitude will change. So it was only a couple of minutes ago that Johan had his shot. We've gone up there, spray painted the gong again, walked back, had a sip of water, and now when we check it, we actually have to come back down by 1 click. So we've made the adjustment. The wind is really not a nice wind. So we're going to hold center mass on the gong. We've made one MOA adjustment. Let's give it a bash. But the big thing is to always trust your instruments. If your instruments say, listen here, come down a click, come down a click. If you've done the homework and done the calibration for your gun, then you know that you're spot on.
Okay.
Oops. Okay, so center mass, you can feel the wind gusting quite heavily. I think you just were right of the gong. Try again, just go left edge.
Okay.
The wind definitely has picked up a tiny bit.
Left edge.
Left edge. There you go. Just on the left. Could you actually see the mirage?
Yeah.
The mirage was running, and then the mirage started to slow down just before you shot.
Yeah.
So that's why it went further left of the where you were aiming. But nice shot.
Thanks.
Eh? Brilliant.
But now we'll feel comfortable taking further shots on animals. Now that we understand how everything works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, have the right equipment to make sure that you don't have any change. So like for example, we didn't speak about it in detail, but you notice that when we were testing your speed, your bullets were so consistent. And that's the benefit of maybe paying a little bit extra and buying quality ammunition like you get in the Sako. The reason being is that your difference between the one bullet and the next bullet is so small that at a long range it doesn't make a difference. You can imagine if your muzzle velocity is 40-foot variance.
Yes.
40 foot, if it's 40 foot faster, you're going to go almost over the animal. If it's 40 foot slower, you're going to shoot very low on the animal. So you need to make sure that you have the right equipment to take the longer shots to be 100% ethical.
Yes.
So know your equipment, go and practice. But listen, tough trying conditions today. Let's try a 500.
Let's do it.
So what's very important is you want to always take the angle that you're shooting in, and the reason being is that your wind will influence based on the angle that you're shooting. So what the nice thing about this little kestrel is that you've got your angle that you capture and you're shooting at 26 degrees. Then when you go to your wind, you open that up and you can feel where the wind's coming from. You go and hold it into the wind. So you can see it's casting. And we capture the wind. Okay, so it's coming out at 10:30 at 9 miles an hour on average. So Johan, you see that, listen here, the Mirage is actually switched totally, so it's coming from the right now. Hold right edge.
Okay.
And then, okay Johan, now it's changed totally again.
Yeah.
You can see the wind is now howling from the left.
Yeah.
You see it's picking up now as well?
Yeah, I can check the Mirage coming here from the...
From left to right?
Yeah, from left to right.
Okay, but now it's significantly more. So
yeah.
Go back to that original setting of 4.75 left. 4.75 and shoot as quick as you can. Nice one, Johan.
Yeah.
Oh, well done, man. Okay, but listen, today is really tough shooting conditions. Okay, so the good news is that, listen, your water line was consistently right. You could see that when we missed to the left or missed to the right, we saw that, listen, the information that we had tested today and calibrated our system for, we knew that that was right.
Yeah.
It's just, the wind is absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
Wind, have you ever seen Mirage from the right to left and wind from left to right?
Yeah.
It's not easy, eh?
Yeah, I must say it was tough shooting conditions today, but it was for us a good learning school to go through, you know.
And listen, normally in these type of conditions you'll never take those long shots if you go into hunt.
Yeah.
But you can see now that you've got your information right on your gun, you are consistently hitting the gong at the 300 meters and 400 meters. It's only now that the wind has picked up and died down and that's middays. So, but you know that the information is now right on your gun. So you can you're more confident in taking those type of shots. But just remember, make sure that your muzzle velocity is constant.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get that constant muzzle velocity, then you're always up and down and whatever. So if you have a 40-foot variance on your muzzle velocity, you're guaranteed to have problems. So make sure that you're using the right equipment, and make sure, more importantly, you're using the right components, the right ammunition. And then calibrate then shoot it out, go and do the actual test so that you calibrate your BC for your gun.
Yeah.
And then go and test it out and make sure that you test these gongs like we've done today, because then dialing out on that animal with your density altitude calibrated for your area,
Yeah.
you know that you're going to be on that animal. And if you're an inch out here or inch out there, you still, you know that you're in the vitals.
Yeah, what I can see from the Sako Super Hammerheads, I mean, even with 180 grains mark, they're doing tremendously well here on the shooting range, eh?
And it's not designed for that. Remember, it's designed for close. Oh, you can see it's blowing our sunglasses off the table. It's designed for hunting conditions, so it really is for close distance hunting.
Yeah.
So even though it doesn't have the highest BC,
Yeah.
as long as you know that the information is correct, you can happily dial out to 500 meters and still take the shot, and you know that you're hitting that gong consistently.
Yeah, yeah.
Well
Mark,
done, man. Huh?
Thanks a lot, man.
Absolutely brilliant.
Let's
huh?
see if Beulah can hit that gong at 500.
Yeah, listen, I have no doubt she will.
3 MO.
Yeah.
Ish.
I don't know, that was way short and way right. That went right of the stand.
Center mass.
Center mass. And you went right of the gong again. Hold right, hold left edge. Try and send it as quickly as you can. Shoot it as quick as you can. Nice shot, Beulah. Hey, well done, man.
Thanks, eh?
That's exceptional shooting and really tough weather conditions today.
Yeah.
So again, we were holding left, we were holding right, but you know that you could see that the waterline, every shot for shot was right there.
Yes.
And the fact that, listen here, even in these tough conditions, you still hit the 500 meter gong more times than you miss it.
Yes.
With hunting ammunition, that just shows you.
Yeah.
You've dialed in we've calibrated the gun to the ammunition that we're shooting. The ammunition is so consistent that you can see it's always hitting at the right line. And the only thing we have to try and do is hold with the weather,
Yeah.
which is not easy today.
And when everything is dialed in properly and you've got all the ballistics set up, 500 meters is like a 100 meter shot.
Exactly, yeah. So that's a nice thing. When you have a scope that you can actually dial it in, and you're holding what, 19.5 MOA.
Yes.
So that's what, the better part of 2.5 meters out at 500 meters. So
That's
it's a
crazy.
massive bullet
Yeah.
drop. And
That's
then on
insane.
the wind there, we are holding at 4.75 when it's now howling like this on the left-hand side
Yes.
there. So you're holding a lot, but you still aim on the center mass,
Yes.
which is much better than that Kentucky Ballistics where you're aiming one animal left and two animals up. Yeah.
This much for that
Yeah,
much.
exactly. Hey, well done, man.
Thanks,
that was
Mark.
exceptional.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so this is one of the new additions to the Tikka range. It's a 6.5 UPR. So UPR stands for Ultimate Precision Rifle. So the nice thing about it is a really good barrel, tried and tested barrel that we get in like the likes of the CTR as well as the Sporter, but in a stock that's almost the best of both. So it's a nice stock, it's got nice hooking points that you can happily carry it through the bush. And if you come out to the range and you want to do some long range shooting, it's got that almost that Macmillan type A5 stock, which is absolutely brilliant. If you're shooting without a bag, it has a place that you can physically hold it. Nice palm swell on the grip. A really nice shooting platform. So we've just zeroed the rifle at 100 meters and we're going to try and push it out to 500 meters. We're shooting the Sako Gamehead Pros. So we're going to load their information on the exact same program that we shot a little bit, that we were using a little bit earlier, Applied Ballistics. And let's see if we can hit some long guns, especially in this tough weather condition.
I think that trigger caught me.
I set it right, huh?
Yeah. that one exactly where I aimed. Now Mark, thanks again for taking the time and teaching me and Beulah how to actually do this properly, you know. I think lots of guys, they've got the right equipment, but they don't have all the information that we learned today from you.
Yeah, no, listen, it's always good to come out. Listen, not the perfect conditions to go and learn something totally new.
Yeah.
So besides for getting your height and that right, you had to really battle with the wind. But you know, you can see that you've done it, eh? For guys that are going now, okay, we've shot a bit together. So I know that you can pull a trigger, but now you're shooting at longer distances with hunting type ammunition and hunting type platforms. And it just shows that, listen, yeah, you did it confidently and competently out to 500 meters without any issues. Huh?
Yeah.
So you know, it helps you build that confidence going forward. Go and practice it, go and learn, and you'll soon start picking up those differences and those slight subtle changes in the wind.
Yeah.
And instead of holding your 4.75, you'll hold a lot less, and so it goes. But it's a wonderful thing to do. Eh? It was really good fun.
Yeah, what stood out for me was when I saw the mirage changing, we quickly had to change up there and make the right adjustments, you know.
Well, listen, that normally takes a little bit more time to actually start, worry about the wind up front. But yeah, it's actually good that you were able to see that mirage change. And you actually called the mirage. I couldn't see it on the spotting scope. It was saw through it effectively. Eh?
But Mark, I must say the Sako Supper Hammerhead is working great in the hunting field, and now that I could see we're shooting constantly groupings with it, it's great ammunition.
Yeah, no, it's top quality stuff. Eh? So they're using the right bullets, the right brass, the right powders, and you can see that in your consistency. So you don't have that vertical elevation by the change in speed. You have that consistently. If you've missed it, you've just missed it. Yeah. And also we have to talk about, the size of the steel plates were really unbelievably small. So listen, I think the average steel plate was less than 20 centimeters wide.
Yeah.
So it's just a miss. So it was more than likely, even though you just missed it on this side here because of the wind, it's more than likely still an impact shot on one of your animals. Eh?
Yeah. Mark, just thanks again for all your support towards Huntech. Me and Beulah, we both really appreciate, it's now coming for 3 years. We really appreciate all your support, man.
And hopefully a lot longer to go. Eh? Thanks again,
Mark,
man.
Thanks again, man.
Thanks, Beulah, and well shot, guys.
Guys, please remember to check out Gun Rats on Facebook and on Instagram and as well on YouTube. You can see all the awesome content and all the products that Mark and them imports here in South Africa.
Brilliant. Thanks again, man.
Thanks, Mark.
Cool.
To watch Huntech's episodes or to find out more about their sponsors and destinations, visit their website and find them on social media.